To finish up this design, now let's add the interactive elements. By now you should have finished the design on top of the template, so let's lock down that layer and create a new layer. You can double click on it and let's give it the name Interactive Elements. Say OK. There's nothing sacred about that name, I just do it to make it easy to know what I'm doing. Let's take this one portion at a time. You're definitely going to need to have your Buttons and Forms panel open and ready for each individual part. We need to create a rectangle for each bit of information that we're going to be collecting. This means we can choose our rectangle tool, and we're going to make a simple rectangle on top of the area that we want it to fit inside of. Now notice I'm giving plenty of room for first name, but I'm also leaving some space for middle name and last name. So as you create these, place them on here. Also, we don't want to have it directly on top of the line. I'm going to nudge it up just a bit to give it a little bit of space between those. That way when it types, it doesn't overlap the line. With it selected, let's create one button that we can just simply copy over. So with the rectangle still selected, notice that the fill color and stroke color is set to none. We can set the type of it. In this case, it's going to be a text field. All we're going to do is to type some text inside of this area. The name of the field is very important because we want to know exactly what we're collecting. So in this case, we're going to call it the first name. And down in the description, you can also give it the same as the name up here. You're describing what it needs to be, first name. The other thing we can do is to make sure it's printable, and we want to set our font size excuse me, to be something nice and readable. As long as it's large enough to be read, I'm going to knock it down to be about 10 point, so there'll be plenty of room to type it out. With this done, you can see now it's an interactive element. Now let's create a new one for the middle field. With it still selected, you can hold down the Option key and click on the edge and simply drag it over until you can see it from here. Again, you may want to go out of preview mode to be able to see exactly what's there. Resize it, and then with it still selected, this will be our middle name. And then in the description, we'll set that to be middle name too. And then finally, use your selection tool to copy it over. Oops, not cut it. Hold the Option key down. Now you can click and drag. Give it a little bit of space between there, and then resize it to fit nicely inside of that area. And this, in your Buttons and Forms, is going to be the last name. Under the description, last name. Notice that since we're copying it, we don't have to change up any other parts for this design. Repeat this process for all of the different portions of the field. I highly recommend going in order that you would tab over or naturally fill this in. So don't go all the way down and skip around. Go in order as it would appear, or you would naturally fill it out. Now I do want to pause right here and point out one particular thing. Notice that we're looking up the employer's name for this field, but the employer's address for both the city, the state, and the zip is going to be something completely different. So since we're already looking up a city address for the person, we want to make sure to name this the employer's city. So with it selected, again, I need to resize this. I'm going to make sure to name this employer city. And then when I do the state, it needs to be the employer's state. Being descriptive is very important. And then the employer's zip. All right, with all of the text fields filled in, let's focus on the yes, no checkboxes up here at the top. Again, you can make your own checkbox, or you can use some of the default checkboxes that are already designed. Go to the Buttons and Forms, open up the sample Buttons and Forms, and you can see the variety of different styles that are already set for here. Now, besides just checkboxes, you can have stars or you can have other little parts to it. I kind of like these little circle checkboxes. So I'm going to drag it off and place it here. With one of them set, let's drag it over to our design. Hold down Shift and Command and scale it down till it fits nicely within the area you want to work in. Maybe a little bit more for mine. With this one created, go over to the Buttons and Forms. You can see it's already set to be a checkbox. Give it a name that corresponds to the question. So in this case, any allergies or allergies would be the name of it. The value is what's going to be very, very important. If it's checked on, then that means yes. And so we want to keep the button value at yes. If it's checked off, then by default it'll be no. However, we also want the default value to be checked off as normal off. Now that it'll be set for here, that's how it'll appear once they can check it. Once we've got one design, let's hold down the Option key, click and drag. Let's duplicate it to the next line. With it selected, so this will be prescriptions. Everything else will remain exactly the same. Hold down Option, make a copy of it. Let's do this one for problems with vision. Or I'm just going to type in vision. V-I-S-I-O-N, there we go. Make a copy of it. Do make sure to hold down the Option key when you make a copy. This one's talking about operations. Click and drag. This one's talking about injuries. Click and drag, keep it the same distance. This is heart problems. This is going to be abdominal pains. And then finally, sleep disorders. Now, if you need to, make sure that these are all nicely aligned. You can always set the spacing of the first one to be well aligned, then select all of them and open your alignment panel or find the alignment options here. And let's distribute them vertically to their centers. Now they're evenly aligned this way. Moving down, in this area, we want to add a large text box that people can write a block of text. So once again, let's get a rectangle and click and drag. This time, we want people to recognize that there is a boundary inside of this box. So I'm going to set the stroke color to be just a solid black and maybe set it to be a thin line at half of a point. Again, you can move it up and down, but let it be nice and open as an area, so it looks something like this. With the rectangle selected, let's change our type to be a text field. In this case, the name of it is going to be explain if yes, or something that describes it. And under our description, we do want it to be printable, but we also want it to be multi-line. This will allow people to type in multiple lines inside of this area. It can be scrollable, but if we turn that off and we set our font size to be auto, this will automatically let it fit inside of here. Or if we turned on scrollable, we can let it scroll up and down. Maybe for this one, I'm going to set it to be 10 point and nice and small. You can play around with the settings for those. With that one done, let's go down to our reason for our visit. For this one, we're going to have a little drop-down box that lets you choose a combination of whatever you want. So this will be a combo box. Again, grab a rectangle, click and drag to give it a size. Make sure the fill and stroke is set to none. And with the rectangle still selected, choose Combo Box. From here, the name of the combo box will be Reason for Visit. And under the description, we can also put the reason for visit. There it is there. And then we can start to list out each of our different items. That list can be found right here in your explanations. You can see we wanted to use a combo box for it. So you can copy and paste each one of these into your reasons. Go down here to paste, and then click the plus sign, and it's added to there. Repeat this for each of the different ones. All right, with each one of these listed as an item, if you wanted to, you can tell it to sort the items, and it'll automatically put them in alphabetical order. And again, you can play around with the font size and settings once it fits nicely in here. I'm going to set this to be auto so that it automatically fits whatever's for that. Next, let's do our radio buttons. And these are set up very particularly, so we want to make sure they're done correctly. Radio buttons, let's go to our sample buttons, can be any one of these and for this value. So I'm going to keep it nice and simple, and let's do a radio button that looks like, I like these green ones. I'm going to click and drag those off. And we'll close this out. Once again, you may have to hold down the Command and Shift key and scale those down till they fit inside of your area. So that looks good there. Maybe a little bit bigger for mine. The name of these is very important, that they're all exactly the same. So with each one selected, let's go ahead and put it in place. And if you need to, you can hold down the Command or Option key and make a copy and put those on top of here. Select all of them. All of them need to have the same name, so make sure they're all named exactly what we want it to be. In this case, this will be our last visit, is the name of them. The value does need to be changed over. So when I select this first one for 0 to 3 months, go down to the button value and do 0-3. That'll be the value that's set for this one. For 3 to 6 months, select it and set its value at 3-6, and that'll be the value for it. Do the same for 6 to 9 and 9 to 12. So 6-9, select 9-12, 9-12, and then finally over a year. Because they're all named the same, they're all treated as one group, just with a different value. Let's do the same for how you'll be paying. Once again, let's open up our sample buttons. In this case, we can choose any of the other ones. Maybe I like these little red dots here. I'm going to scale it down, Shift and Command, till it fits nicely in this area. And then place one up till it aligns with your choices. And we'll do these over here for personal, and for insurance. Once again, select all of these. They need to have the same name. So in this case, the name of it will be How to Pay. Then we can change up their choices. Choose the first one. We're going to set this one to be normal off, and so we'll set it to be there. And then we'll do the choice of cash. Do the same for credit card. Change the choice to be credit card. Other can be other. Personal check. And then insurance. The last one down here will be our insurance provider. Hey, since we don't want to have a drop-down list, let's just do a long list of it. Grab your rectangle tool. In this case, click and drag, and let's make a larger rectangle. With the rectangle selected, this is going to be just a regular list box. And this list box works like a combo box. Down here at the bottom is the different insurance providers. All you have to do is to copy and paste over each one into the list that we have. Jumping back in here, so this will be, the name of it is insurance. The description can be insurance. And then you can paste in each of the list. Whoops, I did all of them. Let's go back and just do one at a time. List item, Aflac, and then choose the plus sign. Repeat this for each of the others. With all of these done, again, you can sort the items, but they're already in alphabetical order, but that's okay. The final thing we need to add is a little checkbox for accepting responsibility for all charges. One more time, let's go up to our sample buttons, and that simply needs to be a nice checkbox. We can use one of the default ones, and I'll use this one here. We'll place it, let it be nice and large. Maybe I'll even scale it down just a bit. With that set, the name of it will be I accept all charges. The default view of it needs to be off, and the button value can be left at yes. The final thing that we need to design are two little buttons at the very bottom, a button to print the form and a button to clear it away. If you go to your template layer, you can see what this looks like. Now we're going to design these buttons to look just like a regular text box. So grab your type tool and click and drag. Let's do one for clear form. Do it as all caps. We can make it bold. We can center it horizontally. And then we can also select our text box and go to Object, Text Frame Options, and let's also center this vertically inside the box. We'll set the fill color to be whatever you want it to be, so you can make it red, and if I do that, maybe we'll also make the text nice and white. With this selected, let's go to our buttons and forms. So this is going to be a general button, so choose type and set it to be button. The name of it will be clear form. This will clear everything away. On the event of tapping it or selecting it, we want to add an action. So hit the plus sign, and towards the bottom we can tell it to clear the form. And that's all that we want it to do. If you want to add other things like rollover, like when you roll over it, you can click on rollover, and maybe for this one we can tell it to drop the tint down to be something slightly different, around 50%. Also, we don't want this to be printed whenever we print the form, so we're going to uncheck printable. That way it won't show up once it's printed. With that one selected and created, let's make a copy of it. So Option, drag it over. Now let's make a green one that also prints the form. I'm going to change it up to say print form, all caps. Whoops, there we go. All right. I'm still in rollover mode, so under normal, with normal selected, I'm going to change that color to be green, and then the rollover color will also be green, but just a lighter version of it. Finally, we need to change the name of it to be print form. And the action, let's remove the clear form action, and hit the plus sign and tell it to print the form. Again, this won't be a printable button, everything else will be exactly the same. With all of this done, let's turn off visibility in our layers panel of the template layer and see what we got. You can go back and tweak your design, but let's save it up and export it as an interactive PDF to test. Go up to File, down to Export. We're going to give it a name of medical form. I'm going to save mine to the desktop. Make sure your format is interactive PDF and hit save. Everything else can be exactly the same. You can tell it to fit to the page, and you can export all the pages that we have, just one of them. We'll say also to, no, we're good for that. We'll say export and OK. This will generate our PDF. Give it just a second. Now, if you have Acrobat Pro installed on your computer, you should be able to go in and see what it looks like. I can see already that I can go in and type and hit Tab to fill in any of the information for each of those. So those are working nice. If I go over to my checkboxes, they already have checks set for them by default, but you can see what they look like once they're checked on. If I choose to fill in my example, so I can type this in as multi-line, my reason for visit, I can choose broken bone. To test out each one of these, because they're all named the same. I can only choose one. Same way with paying with cash or paying with check. Then who's my insurance provider? This pops up with this, and I can check off my responsibility. If I choose clear form, this clears everything away, and that looks good. And if I hit print form, I need to change print form on this one. You can see when I roll over it, it actually gives me two different things. So if you see something that needs to be fixed, we can always close this out. We won't save our form. Jump back into InDesign. Let's fix our button first. I can see on rollover, it says print form, but on normal, it also needs to say print form. So I'm going to select it, type in print. Also, for my checkboxes, they were all checked by default. Well, to change that is real simple. We need to unselect selected by default, so that'll turn them off as checked. Finally, let's go up to File and save it one more time, and let's export this one more time. You can call it medical form again, and simply when you hit save, we're going to replace the one we have and do export and say OK to that problem. Now it fixed my problem that I have with my checkboxes, and these look good. And it also fixed my print form and my clear form, and everything else works well. When you're finished with this, upload the InDesign and the interactive PDF to the classroom page.